Hello everyone and welcome back to the Social Distance Cinema discussion. This week we watched Drive starring Ryan Gosling, Bryan Cranston, Marlin from Finding Nemo, and Hellboy from Hellboy.
You should have taken the money and left the guy alone.
It's not that simple, Bernie.
No, of course not, now that it's bounced up in your face.
If you think something's off about this video, then that's because there is something off about this video. Because this week I've decided to go scriptless. I don't need it. So if the video seems a little more choppy than it usually is, that's because I'm messing up quite a bit.
I don't need it. I don't need it. I definitely don't need it.
I'm doing this for a number of reasons. For one, it's more genuine, and for two, I don't have to waste 4.5 hours writing a script when I could just be shooting something. And since this is a channel where all, if not most of you guys know me personally, I just think scripts are not working in general. Which is pretty cool just because it seems like humans have a natural radar for bullshit. It's kind of the perfect time to try this out because I did some research on the director of Drive and he has a similar philosophy. Acting in general is about finding truth in fictitious situations. The best actors in the business can pull truth out of almost any situation, which can be more and more difficult depending on how complex the story gets. If we're going to take the logical step and say that acting is all about truth, then directing is trying to pull that truth out of the actors in some way, shape, or form. And there's many different ways to do that. One of the early things that we pointed out was that Ryan Gosling doesn't have a lot of dialogue in this movie, which is awesome that you guys noticed that because that's something I think the director wanted us to notice again.
That kind of silence, I've always been I find it much more frightening. So every day I would say to Ryan, just keep the energy within, just keep everything in and do not let it out. So that automatically makes an actor very, very intense to look at because it's all happening from the inside.
Refn says that over the course of his writing, he cut 50% of Gosling's dialogue, and then by the time they were ready to shoot, he cut the extra 50, which means that's 100% of the dialogue, but he did talk, so he's obviously not very mathematically accurate. But it's true as hell that Ryan Gosling doesn't say very much, and Refn's excuse for this is that when your character doesn't have dialogue to portray truthfully, then he's got to do it only with his body, his eyes, and mostly his face. So when there's less dialogue, it's easier for an actor to prove their chops. So I think this might have been Gosling's breakout role where Hollywood saw him as an actor that can be put into vigorous situations and come out with a pretty good performance. Prior to this movie, Gosling was in like a lot of romance flicks like The Notebook, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because I like The Notebook, but these movies don't really allow him to exercise his acting chops very well. In the romance movies, he's really just kind of like an objectified man, which that's fair. Ladies are often objectified in film. So I think Drive really elevated Gosling from this eye candy piece of meat to someone that can handle these more crazy situations in acting, which is why he's been in some pretty amazing films since then.
Within cells interlinked.
Within one stem.
Within one stem.
And dreadfully distinct.
And dreadfully distinct.
Against the dark.
Against the
dark. A tall white fountain played.
A tall white fountain played.
Refn cites storybooks or fairy tales as an inspiration for this piece. He also compares the film to a superhero origin story, which is kind of interesting because Gosling does have like a moral arc. If anyone were to ask us what our takeaway was from this movie, we definitely would not say storybook or superhero, probably. Other than maybe the villains, which are like super dark and super evil. But I think maybe the fairy tale element is why Gosling has such a strong connection to the child in this film. As Dave pointed out, the first time Gosling even speaks that's not directly in response to someone is to the child.
Scary. Hey, you want a toothpick?
There's a lot of times where the movie just takes a drastic turn for the worse, which left us all a little confused and appalled at some points. At one point, the movie gets so dark that they splice in footage of the settlement between Kevin Spacey and one of his sexual abuse accusers.
Don't worry, don't worry, that's it. It's done. There's no pain, it's over, it's over.
There was a scene that was literally very dark that features a lighting gimmick from something out of a horror movie, but I guess technically he was wearing a mask, which is something a superhero would do. I just don't know how he got away from that piece without going to jail because there was a guy on the beach waving a light around. But I think that's all I had to say about it. I don't think it really drummed up enough of my attention to make a longer video about it. This week we didn't do a vote because we're all authoritarians, but also because Marriage Story tied Drive, and you guys said you wanted to just watch Marriage Story rather than have another vote. So we're just gonna do that. I've already seen it like twice, but for you guys, I'll watch it again, and it's really good. Let me know if you like this off-script format in the comments below. Your feedback is super important to me because I'm still pretty early at doing this stuff, so if you find anything boring about these videos, please let me know in as harsh a fashion as you possibly can so that it hurts my self-esteem. Also, shout out to Dave, Danielle, and Ian and Flora, who just got new houses at roughly the same time. It's kind of weird, but you guys are awesome. I love you both, and congratulations. And that just about covers it. Stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully, I'll see you next week.